Hey guys, welcome to my podcast, Free Soul Awakening. I'm Ashley. I'm an evidential medium, and I've been on my healing journey for about 4 years now. So today is a very special episode because we have a very special guest that you all know and love, or probably don't, but you're going to. This is my cousin, Danielle.
Hi, what's up? I'm Danielle, also known as Mac Daddy, the ultimate crazy cat lady, and I am a newbie on my healing journey, relatively, I would say. And here comes my spirit guide, butthole. But he has helped me a lot along my journey, Mackie Pants.
Yes.
This is Mac
You can,
Daddy, the namesake.
yep, we can't
He
see his face.
is, oh
It's
no,
just
because the free soul
keep
awakening thing.
just keep going, keep going, keep move. There you go. There he is. So today on the podcast, we are going to talk about liberation from centering romantic relationships. So me and Danielle have both been single. I've been single for about a year. How long have you been single for?
It depends on your definition of single, but single for sure for since not this past January, but the January before that. So like a year and some change.
Okay. Yeah, so around the same time. You're a little more than I am, but
hmm
so today we just wanted to talk about decentering from romantic relationships because I think it's super, super important.
What does it
Yeah,
mean to decenter romantic relationships to you?
decentering romantic relationships is just shifting your focus from romantic relationships as the sole source of fulfillment and happiness in your life, because I think a lot of people pour so much of themselves into a relationship that they tend to forget that they can also fill their cup through other support systems, community and friendships and themselves. And the less they pour into themselves, the less boundaries and limitations they have for themselves, people, and myself included, prior, tend to accept less than we deserve because we're so afraid of losing our person because we're pouring everything into them. And I,
Yeah, which is, it seems normal, right? You see all the movies and every TV show, and there's this end goal of the one. But for real, though, we're so ingrained, and even people will call things like divorce as a failure. All of these things are seen as that is, not to mention the way people treat weddings and as the best day or the greatest day of your entire life. We're trained to think that finding someone or getting in a romantic relationship that lasts forever is the goal, when in reality, there are so many great things in life that it's not that you can't have that as a goal.
right.
It's just that there has to be other goals and you have to proportionately give effort into really more than one thing, period. What's the saying? You don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing relationship wise,
Yeah, I've
because they could die.
no, but
Like,
that's so it's
actually.
true. It's true
hmm
because I know people, including my own mother, when my dad passed, she was just completely lost. She didn't do the bills, she didn't know how to handle the finances, nothing.
hmm
And codependency is a real problem
hmm
too, and I think ex especially kids in their teens and early 20s, it's the desperation for a partner can become kind of an obsession where you're not focused on the things that you need to focus on. You're not focused on yourself. You're not focused on your goals. You might go to school and college and you're like, yeah, but your main goal and your focus is that person because you have to get married and you have to have kids and society is like, oh, well, you're single? Where's your boyfriend? Where's your girlfriend? I hate it because it's saying I can't have a life that's fulfilled without a partner, which is
Absolutely.
just crazy. And even now, I'm 35 and I'm single. And even when people say, "Oh, are you dating?" or "Well, why don't you have a partner?" Like, what's going on? I really have learned to pour into my own cup that I'm open to a partner, but I'm not looking, I'm not desperately searching. I'm on no dating apps. I have so many goals for myself at this point that I'm so focused on them all that looking for a partner is like the bottom of the barrel. And guys, we're not saying you can't and you shouldn't. I think it's a human need to want intimacy in whatever kind of aspect, physical intimacy, emotional intimacy from a partner, and that's okay to want that. I still want those things. Sometimes I lay in bed, I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to be like cuddled, but to desperately search for that, I think is the problem that a lot of, especially young people are having currently.
Definitely. Yeah. And times change, right? And things aren't the same as they used to be. And the goalpost is always changing on like what a healthy relationship does look like. And that's, I think, part of the reason why young people nowadays should stay single or more maybe casually date versus seriously date for a lot of those reasons of also just not knowing yourself. So some of the things that you can do and to make sure or to actually practice this in your life are things like just taking on new hobbies. And I'm a firm believer that it's important to have hobbies and things that I love a good hobby.
Danielle has all the every time I talk to her, we talk every Sunday. We do a Zoom
Mhm.
call that lasts like 3 hours, and every month she comes up with a new hobby. Why don't you tell people some of your hobbies that you've
Yeah.
picked up?
Starting off strong, I learned how to juggle in month
Yeah.
two, but I've always wanted to like learn how to juggle. I already had the juggling balls, so I was starting off at an advantage. But it really you can learn so many things and do so much stuff.
Yeah.
You're so much more capable of, and even if you're not, just the act of trying to learn something new, and especially if you're able to do it getting off of your phone or
Yeah.
and then I'm also a very firm believer in not monetizing all of your hobbies. And I get it. We live in capitalism and everyone needs more money all the time. And you can see like your time is, but there really should be just time that is your time. Like that is, you're not wasting time by participating in hobbies or making things for yourself, or even if they suck, but that's time that you're spending with yourself. When you're doing a craft or things like that, you often have to sit with yourself. And maybe you've got music going or like listening to a podcast or whatever, but it's time when you can't be as distracted as you might be otherwise. And it just is so things like running. Think of running as a hobby, you know? You're not, other than music and maybe a book or something like that. I mean, that's all. And it teaches you other things too, right? Like discipline and things like that, that then seep into romantic relationships and just make you a better person when you show up for the other person, if you ever even have a person or not. That's an easy one. Getting a hobby is easy and doesn't even have to be
Yeah.
expensive or anything. Like I just said, running. Most people have running shoes. Running is for a certain type of person. I do recommend everyone try running. You'd be surprised
I
who likes
cannot
running.
run.
Yeah, some people
Yeah,
just,
some
it's
people
just not for
love
them.
it.
I totally, yeah.
Yeah.
At this current moment, I'm not going to be a runner because one of my hobbies I need to pick up is cooking, and I need to be a better cook and cook for myself or whatever.
More so than eggs and potatoes.
Absolutely. Yep. More
Yeah,
and pasta salad. That's literally it.
yeah. And muffins.
And muffins. Now I've added muffins in. That was one of the hobbies, was I'm learning how
Yeah.
to
Oh,
bake
yeah, yeah.
muffins because I spend,
From the mix.
yeah, from the mix. I'm gonna learn from scratch is coming it up. You just have to read instructions and that's it. And I've messed up things plenty of times. Then I go back and I read the instructions and I'm like, yeah, see what I did wrong.
I definitely I think it's important to have your own hobbies and have your own kind of self-care routine, especially if you are in a relationship and you're noticing you're giving your entire self to that person and you have no time for you. That's a
Mhm.
big red flag for yourself because
Yep.
that's saying you're reliant on that person. And I think the problem with centering romantic relationships specifically is that you're giving all to that person, so you're literally losing yourself.
You can also grow and stuff while you're in a relationship.
That's right.
Um, but
Yeah.
that does make me think of though, there's kind of this joke or this whatever of like the post breakup glow up. Most people, men and women, both tend to glow up after they've gotten out of a relationship. A lot of the times, not every single time, obviously. And what that is, like scientifically, is you're just focusing more on yourself. You don't have time to, so I don't want to stereotype or anything, but everyone will get in the gym. They'll spend more time in the gym and like those types of things because you just simply have more time for yourself that you have to fill in a way, or you'll do what we are obviously trying to advise against, which is start chasing and spending that time dedicating to chasing other people or into relationships and things. And that's the other thing is that it's extremely time consuming when you center relationships. And it's not that people don't deserve your time and effort and things. And that's why it's so hard and such a balance. But the amount of time and Think
Yeah.
about how much time you spend when you're in a relationship, when you're courting people, which is a crazy word that I can't believe I just said, trying to date people, whatever.
Yeah.
That is insane that I just said that. Who am I, the Duggars? When you're trying to date people and stuff, it should be a lot of effort, right? Because that if it's not a lot of effort, then it's not going to be probably a long lasting standing relationship. It means you probably don't actually care that much about each other and things. That's why the honeymoon phase is so fun because you're both pouring so much time into each other that it's butter like, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to think of the opportunity cost, and that's kind of which is hard. It's tough, and you want to balance. Obviously, everyone does like need and deserves love, but it just always doesn't have to come from your romantic partner, and it's a lot of pressure on them as well. It's not fair.
Yeah, I did a TikTok about this maybe like a month ago, and I said, I don't want to date someone who tells me I'm their entire world, that I am everything to them. I definitely think in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
like late teens, early 20s, I would have ate that up.
So sweet,
But
right? And it's
it's
mhm.
coming from a sweet place where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, you're my everything, but that puts so much pressure on me. God forbid I don't feel a connection anymore.
Mhm.
Or I don't know, now I don't want somebody that I become their life. I want to add to their life. I want them to say, my goodness, I am so happy. I was so happy before I met you, and you add so much more happiness to my life. I don't want to become somebody's entire life because if we do break up, they don't have a sense of self. And that's the problem. I remember when I was dating my first girlfriend, and we were together for 2.5 years, and I was young, I was in my early 20s, and I was so codependent. Talk about centering romantic relationships. I centered the crap out of that relationship. And that person became my everything. That was all I thought about. That was all who I talked to. I didn't really talk to any of my other friends. I lost friends. And when we broke up, I didn't know who I was. And that is such a huge problem. I had no clue who I was. I had no identity outside of that relationship. And you
Yeah.
hear it a lot from people when you ask, oh, what makes you happy? My partner. They're
Mhm.
like, oh, well, what do you do for fun? Hang out with my partner. Which again, nothing back. Nothing wrong with that. But when it's becomes a codependent situation where the both of you are just reliant on each other to provide emotional needs and support, and you're not actually looking elsewhere also, that's when it becomes a huge problem.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it doesn't even necessarily have to get all the way there for it to be like bad, but yeah, definitely. It's a disservice to your relationship and it just doesn't, it's not healthy. And that's where the toxicity comes from and all of these things, they're all connected, right? You hear that La Toxica and all of those things. And that comes from a place of centering and focusing so much on your relationship. I'm not saying like let your partner go cheat or whatever, but
Oh,
if they are, break up with them, first off, if you know that. But also, they shouldn't be giving you this is a give and take. And that's why communication and things are so important in relationships, is because the other person also has to understand this. This does not work if the other person still thinks that you're their world or you think that this is a two-way street. So you also have to give your partner space and boundaries as well. It goes both ways. And that takes a lot of work and communication and all sorts of things in order to get that to actually be successful. This is all a logical parts of the relationship. Obviously, there's love and lust and all of those things. That's where I get that it's not black and white. It's a lot easier said than
yeah.
done a lot of the times. And that's why it can always be baby steps. And my other favorite thing too is you're never too late to change who you are or be a better person or you can make friends at any age.
Yeah.
You can just go
Yep.
out, meet your neighbors, go to a new class, and then the key to making friends, even in adulthood, is just keep showing up to the same place over and over again. I go on walks all the time with Mac, and we've made friends on the street because we constantly see each other. After you say hi 20 times in a row, you're gonna be like, "What's your name?" You know what I mean? And that does again, it takes to these, you both
Yeah.
have to be willing participants in the conversation, but it helps if you have like a cute pet to
That's
break the
true.
ice.
That's true. I mean,
Everyone loves Mac.
go,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. Go take a class, take a pottery class.
Mm-hmm.
I met my best friend in jujitsu when I was in my
Exactly.
30s.
Yeah.
It's so
Don't.
important to also be open to emotional support and emotional fulfillment from
Yes.
your friends, from your
Yes.
family, not
Mm-hmm.
just from your partner, because we're constantly looking for that, oh, that validation of, oh, my partner's giving this to me, or I have all this support from my partner, and we have to be open to community. And
Mhm.
that's also how we don't center relationships, where we
Yep.
are like, hey, I'm gonna hang out with my friends tonight. Maybe he'll hang out with his friends or she'll hang out with her friends. It's so important to keep that community. God forbid you break up. Again, not saying it's not okay. Of course it's okay. But to put everything into that person, that when it becomes your burnout,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're talking about emotional burnout.
Yeah. And it's also important to have difficult like conversation and not necessarily difficult conversations with your friends, like friend breakups or whatever. I'm talking difficult conversations about we often will save the most tragic parts of our life for select few people or things like that. But it's important to start having real rapport, whether that be with like friends or family or whatever, therapist. It's
Yeah.
important. We're not talking and you're not having deep conversations with your friends and your family and things, and you need to have deep conversations with someone that is not your romantic partner about life and other things that, even if it's the tough conversations, like things that people, someone's going to get sick in your life at some point, right? And that's a
Yeah.
really tough thing to go through for anyone. And maybe you're the person who's getting sick, you know? And that's just really, so that, those types of things, you cannot simply rely on a partner for that emotional support. You need to branch out to a few friends or a few family members, but you have to ensure that those really tough emotional burdens aren't singled out for a single person because, yeah, that's it. Again, that does create that dependency. And then who are you going to go to when, if y'all break up? That person. And that story's been seen a million times. I think I've been in that case
Yeah, of
before.
course. I have too. It's that obviously I'm 35, so I've been broken up with and I've broken up with people, and some breakups are really, really difficult. And I think because that emotional codependency is there, that codependency on that partner, so I've broken up with people that do not take it well, that say they can't live without me. And that's the scariest thing, that you don't know yourself. You can't exist without another person's. That's a lie. That is a lie. You can absolutely have a very fulfilled, happy life single.
Yeah, it's the fear talking. Fear is
Mhm.
the number one vibe killer, period, point blank, of anything. Think about anything you want to do or anywhere you want to go or any hard conversation you want to have. At the end of the day, you're just scared of X, Y, and Z. You're scared that the person's going to lash out. But you have to do it anyway. You have to just do it
Yeah,
scared. You
you
have to
have
just
to.
learn to move through fear just like any other emotion. Like you have good days and bad days when it comes to happiness, sadness, but same thing with fear. And so much of this, I also feel like comes with age too. I saw some TikTok of this woman who I really, really like on TikTok, and she made a thing saying, if you're 18 to 20 years old right now, you're the worst version of yourself probably. You're
Yeah,
making the
of
worst
course.
decisions you're probably gonna make, and no, you're not listening. And when I was that age, 100%. I was making the worst
100%.
decisions I could possibly make, and I was being such an asshole, and I didn't know. I thought I was being nice and fine. But it's like, no, girl, you can't ditch your friends for a boy in the middle of the night without telling them. It's called an Irish goodbye. You can't do that. You came together, you're supposed to leave. And I was like, why would they care about me because they're your friends? What I, as a young person, would not realize is me disappearing or whatever, Irish goodbying a night out and not telling my friends or something was also them knowing that they couldn't rely on me to be there for them. And that's the part that I was missing because I was like, I don't need anyone to be there for me. But they knew that that meant that I was going to be flaky if it meant something for them. And that probably was the truth, honestly,
Yeah.
which is really hard to admit. But yeah, I think that and it comes again just from a place of, that's a really good example of why centering romantic relationships. I have a million stories like that of just being
Yeah,
yeah.
same.
And again, like it's so common, right? Like even guys do it. Like everyone does it. Everyone's put themselves and their friends in quote unquote like questionable-ish situations just so that they could get somewhere or further an agenda romantically. And it's embarrassing looking back on it. Not really, your life brings you to where you want to be. Yeah, memories made with your friends and family and things are almost never going to be regretted. But look
Right.
back at your pictures and things with your romantic relationships and things are not as fun
And you're like cropping
because
them out of pictures,
yeah,
like, you
yeah,
know
you're like, oh, remember
what?
that day I cried that day because my partner
Yeah.
was being emotional. The memories are never gonna be as good. And I'm not saying don't make memories and like pictures with your significant other. Obviously do that.
Yeah.
But it's just you need a mix of memories.
When you're 18, 19, 20, even early 20s, whatever, you think you know yourself. And I think You do know yourself, but at that time, because that is not who you are going to become. 30s, like late 20s,
Yeah, I
30s
still
is
have more to go
so
to.
different. Yeah, it's so different than in 20s. And because people would say, "Oh, you don't know yourself," or "You're so young," and it used to make me so mad.
Hmm.
And I don't know why I'm so mad. Shut up. But I
Hmm.
was young and
Yep.
I did not know myself. I knew what I wanted at the time I was 22, which is completely different than what I want now.
Yeah.
And
And it's
focusing,
underlying things are still there's still similarities.
yes, yes,
Yep.
100%. I
Yep.
think there's just from what I want in a relationship
Yes.
back then, which I just want somebody to want me.
Yep.
Just be a nice person.
Yeah.
And plenty of that. But now, the more I focus on myself and not focus on desperately getting a partner on Tinder for like 20 hours, running out of matches, the more I do that, the more I pour into myself, the more I realize the needs and wants that I want now, and they're so different, and I'm not settling. And I think that's another big thing is that people just they want someone so bad that they settle for whatever. And they think they found someone nice because it's the honeymoon phase and everything's great. But that can turn into very harmful relationships. And the less you put into yourself and knowing what you want and who you are and giving yourself boundaries and limitations and safety, the less you'll take from a partner. But the
Yeah.
problem is when you don't do that, that's how people stay in abusive relationships because they're just like, oh, well, I have someone and this is all I deserve. There's a lot that goes into that too, not just this, but not centering relationships can definitely help people exit harmful relationships quicker because you notice the red flags and you go, I'm okay being single and I don't deserve that. And I want
Yes.
more than what this person is giving me just because there's
I
someone
deserve it.
that likes
And
me.
not even, yeah, not simply because there's someone better out there, but simply just because you don't deserve to be treated that way. Yes, there probably is someone better out there, absolutely. And that's the goal, and those are always the things. But yes, the mentality of not having to wait until there is someone better to leave type of thing. And that's something that I think a lot of people will jump from relationship to relationship like, over and over. That's how they're not leaving the previous relationship before they find somebody. They're finding
Right.
someone while they're still in the current relationship. And that's how, and they're,
Yes.
and that low
Yes.
key is cheating. And so instead of, doing the right thing, but it really is the morally right thing to just break up with that person or deal with those feelings, you instead then just direct them in a different direction to someone else.
Yeah.
And that happens so often. And that's how you see
So
those people.
often. No, when you can't sit with yourself, I think it's a problem when you obviously jump from relationship to relationship. I've been there. When you break up with someone and you're sad and you immediately go to Tinder. Like a week later you're on dating apps. You didn't even give
People won't
yourself
even
a
wait like an
chance.
hour.
Yet you don't give yourself a chance to heal. And then what
Yep.
happens is you jump right into someone else, but you still have the sadness and the baggage from that relationship, whether you realize it or not. That is still inside, whether there's trauma, sadness, guilt, pain, whatever it is, and you're taking it into this relationship, which means you're in a new relationship. Maybe you like the person, maybe you're just like, whatever, but you're probably still checking the other person's socials. You're probably seeing what they're doing, where they're
Yep.
going, because you didn't give yourself a chance to heal. And that is one
Yeah.
of the most important things to do when you go through a breakup. You have to feel it to heal it. And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of times it doesn't work.
Yeah. And this makes me sound more like a boomer and stuff, but maybe the older I get, obviously physical and lust, physical attraction, all that stuff is obviously important in a relationship. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying that it's not by any means. But
Yeah.
I think as you get older and like kind of start to like get your logic and your wits with you a little bit, you start to realize that the pieces of the puzzle are much greater than simply physical attraction and those types of things. And I think when you're younger, like that is so
Yeah.
easy because to be fair, that is one of the only things I think that you can only get from your partner. Either you do it by yourself or you're doing it with your partner or
Right.
you're cheating.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
those are your
Yeah.
options.
Well, I think we should really use the time in between relationships to really build up our self-worth, to really work on ourselves, meaning going to therapy, really healing. The more we can build up our self-worth and set boundaries for ourselves for relationships, I think the better off we'll be, especially during a breakup. Because I think what happens during a breakup is that sometimes our self-worth is very, very low, and and we're reliant on our partners to always bring us up.
That's a
Oh,
really
you're
good point.
hot, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, and it makes you feel good, but you don't do that for yourself. So then what
Hmm.
happens after the breakup is that you feel worthless, especially if it's a bad breakup and the guy or the woman is like, you're a piece of crap and I was never attracted to you. Instead of saying, you
Yep.
know what, I'm beautiful. And no matter what you say, I don't care what you say. I know I'm
Hmm.
beautiful and I have self-confidence and I have more self-worth than what you're saying. What
Hmm.
happens is we just become so low and now our
Hmm.
self-worth is nothing because we wanted external validation from our partner only. Now, it's okay to get external validation from your
Yeah.
partner, right? It feels good. It's great.
It's a
But
part
you
of
don't want,
relationships.
yes, you don't want that to be the only thing where you are relying on that person for external validation. You can get it from your friends, but the most important person you need to get it from is you, is
Yes.
inside.
And that there's a lot of things that that comes with. But I personally, again, I'll keep bringing it back to just like doing things for yourself. When you
Yeah.
learn skills or have things that you enjoy doing, that can build self-confidence. That's the reason that they have kids try to learn instruments and that they don't want every kid to be a flutist or a little, the hot cross buns with the flutes. That's not the goal, but the goal is
Hot
that
cross
they learn.
buns.
Yep.
Hot cross
Yeah,
buns.
the goal is to just train your brain, become more confident in yourself and your own abilities to learn new things, to do things. It's just so important. And when you're focusing so much on "Well, how's this person's mood gonna be when I get home, or
Right.
all of those types of things. And now, granted, that's a tough one, really. If you're already in a relationship like that, then I don't know. But regardless, there's a lot of things to think about when you're in a healthy relationship as well. Like it is just very time consuming. There's always a holiday coming up. There's always something when you go to the store and stuff. No, absolutely no offense, but you probably should be thinking of them. You probably should be thinking of them at the store when you're like, shit, did they? And but if you're there, you might as well be like, oh shit, and send them a text. Hey, did you need more razors? I'm at the store. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with those types of
No, of
things. In fact,
course,
that's
yeah.
how you foster a healthy relationship. So it's
Yeah.
really tough. Again, the balance is really tough. It's not F my partner, F relationships completely, but it definitely, and the only way to do this in a healthy way is simply to pour back into yourself. Exactly. Like
Yeah.
friends and family.
No, I think like how to practice decentering. A couple things you can do is to focus on hobbies and interests, like, but write them down. Maybe write down, hey, what would I like to learn? What are your goals and dreams for your future? Do you hate your job? Do you want to get a different job? Life is too short for us to hate our lives. We are
Mhm.
here to enjoy every moment that life has to offer, even the little moments. So, like Danielle said, if you're in a relationship where you're like, oh, I wonder what their mood's going to be like when I come home, protect your peace at all cost because that is the only way that you will actually regulate your nervous system and
Mhm.
feel good and healthy and stable.
Yep.
Because if you're constantly worrying about them and your peace is not protected and your body is in a fight or flight,
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah.
So focus on self-care. I would recommend getting a therapist, but do little self-care things for take a hot shower, go get your nails done, work on your self-worth. Affirmations are great. Saying affirmations in the mirror, practicing routine like I am
Yep.
beautiful, I am, because so many people think that they aren't because some asshole told them that they were ugly. And now that's stuck in their head. This is a conditioning. This is a
Yep.
condition that we are taught that has stuck in our head and we believe it and we take it on and we believe it to be true. So
Yep.
you can do that. You can set
I
boundaries.
give back to other people because it will, yes, nurture other relationships. And then also too, potentially now there are so many bad things going on currently in the world. Now's the time to give back to your community and maybe sign up
Yeah.
for something, those types of, I
Volunteer
know that
work.
that's,
Yeah.
you should not do charity work or community work out of a place of selfishness. But if you are, it might as well be so that you feel more confident in yourself and you're able to decenter those relationships by pouring into all these people.
Yeah.
It's just a good redirection of energy that honestly your partner shouldn't be mad about. That's kind of the other thing. If you start this
Exactly. Yeah.
journey and your partner or whoever either isn't able to participate in the journey on their own or isn't able to take the adjustment, that might not be a healthy relationship. And that sucks. But this is a really good gauge on if you're able to decenter your romantic relationship and still be in that romantic relationship, then it's probably a really good one. And it's one that you should hold on to and you should continue to nurture and like, put that amount of time, however much that looks like for you. But I,
Absolutely. Absolutely. said that perfectly. Yes. Writing down goals for yourself and writing down needs and values. If you're not in a partnership, what do you want in a partner? Be very specific and write that down. But also have goals and
Hold
values
yourself
for
accountable.
yourself.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
like
have to hold
what
yourself accountable to what you actually
no
believe. Your actions are going to be a lot more telling than speaking to your partner or whatever would be.
I get what you mean. I think now when I date, because I have dated in this year, and it's much easier for me to notice red flags and cut that relationship off pretty immediately instead of ignoring them, because that's what a lot of people do, because now they have somebody that they're talking to all the time. Now it's exciting, that dopamine's they're interested. And instead of saying, hey, that's a really big red flag, or I don't feel a connection to this person, but I'm gonna stay with them because they're
It's a gr-
nice. No, we gotta stop it. When you don't feel a connection, when you see those red flags, that's the time that you should say, nope,
yeah.
cutting it off now,
And if
instead
you're
of
not,
waiting.
yeah,
But that's another thing about not centering relationships, is that you know what you want, you know how to protect your peace, you know the values that you want in a person. So when they do something that's like, red flag, you're not waiting for another red flag. And then after that red flag, you're waiting for another one. And then you're going, well, how many red flags can I
yep,
actually stand before the relationship becomes so toxic and you guys break up in 3 years when you could have broke up early on? So
yep,
nurturing your self-worth, and how much do
yep.
you respect and your self-respect? When you don't have any self-respect, you let anybody walk all over you.
And this is a team project. So that's the reason why people actually want to give this knowledge to other people and feel so drawn to helping other people heal as well, is because the more of us that heal, the better society becomes. The better dating becomes. We all want to date
Yeah.
healed people. Healed
Yes.
people
Yeah.
do really well with healed people.
Yep.
It's like magnets. It works really well. And it would just be a lot better. Everyone complains about the dating pool, and it's because so many
Yeah.
people are not healed and they're looking at the superficial values of a relationship. Like, do we look good together? And back to red flags and stuff. I think what people will do, and I've done it myself a million times, well,
Oh
that's kind of
yeah,
like a
I've done
yellow
it.
flag. That's a yellow flag. Like,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's not. And if you've written these things down and you know for sure, I don't like people who are bad at communicating. And you're kind of sitting there and you're like, I can't tell if this person's, you know already. You've
Yep.
answered your own question. Like,
Exactly.
and then the more that you practice those types of things, the more you'll trust yourself. Because trust me, you're not going to regret that decision. You're not going to regret the decision to stop talking to someone who sucks. You might, in very short term, it may seem bad, but long term, I don't think I've ever regretted cutting off someone who sucks at. Like, I don't,
No.
especially romantically.
Yeah.
Your life will eventually become better. And that does
Yeah.
involve not watching those other people and not comparing your life to other people, because I do understand that that's like easy. Well, my ex, well, they got married and the girl's beautiful and this not your journey. Not your
Exactly.
journey. You were in the relationship and it wasn't happy and it wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. So that means that you and that person could absolutely be happy and healthy and in a nice relationship with another person, and it's just not your journey. And you just have to move forward. And again, part of it, if you're centering romantic relationships, then you're always going to be drawn to those exes and those things, because it's almost like a competition. But it's, at the end of the day, it's not. When you don't center a romantic relationship, it's not a competition. It's
No.
just
It
dating.
should be, yeah,
It
and
should be
it should,
fun. Yeah.
exactly. It should be fun. And
And kind of easy. Well, that's probably not the right word, but like, it shouldn't be hard and it shouldn't be easy. It should be somewhere in the middle.
your journey is about you. And I've been there, guys. Everything I talk about, like I've been there where I've centered relationships. I've been there where my self-worth was at the bottom of the barrel. I've been there where I jumped from relationship to relationship. I've done all the things. And I'm at the point now in my healing journey that I'm so happy. And I'm at such a pivotal point in my life where I don't feel the need for another person. Am I open to another person? Sure. When the time is right, I know that the universe will put that person in my life, but I have so many goals that I'm just continuing to follow them, pour into myself, that I have so much respect for myself that I'm not settling for anything or anybody. Okay, so just going back to practicing decentering real quick, setting boundaries. So making sure that your personal needs and values are respected, prioritizing self-care, your well-being, anything to deal with your personal growth, your healing, therapy, whatever you need, talking to your friends, just hyping yourself up. Affirmations, nurturing other relationships, nurturing friendships.
You'd be surprised what a good little workout does. I know it sounds
Yeah.
crazy, but
Oh,
just for your
I
mental
know.
health. Not and that could be a whole other topic too. Doing things to for your happiness and not for a specific goal, like an
Yeah,
end goal per se. Because I think that helps me do a workout or get in a workout mode. If I'm trying to look a certain way or, act, or like get in a certain shape, it just like seems like a task. But if I'm like, no, just go move your body. Like you have legs, I'll move
exactly.
them. Have fun, go do some stuff. Yes, it might not be fun 100% of the time, but like you will feel good if you do this thing. Go do it. And if you
Yeah.
think of it like in more of that kind of way, like it becomes, and same thing with, yeah,
Chase
relationship.
sunsets. I mean, yeah,
Absolutely.
like focus. Another thing is focusing on hobbies and interests, self-reflection, and personal growth. Me and Danielle, even though we live kind of far away, we love hiking. And I love hiking. I live in Philly. I'm in Jersey a lot. I have my hiking little group. But if they don't want to come, I go alone. Being out in nature and being grounded is so important for us, to align ourselves. Meditation is another great practice.
Nature teaches you so much.
It really does. We're going to do a whole episode on it. I know the values that I want in another person. And I don't when you're letting another person's mood affect your mood,
Yeah, people will complain about their friends or their mom and dad and the way that they bitch and moan and make their lives miserable. Well, if that's your partner too. I'm not coming from an experience of having kids or anything either. Ashley's got at least the experience of having a relationship with a child, which adds a
I have a
whole other
twin.
aspect of pressure. So you're like a real expert in the
Yeah,
decentering relationships phase because so many people have stayed together for the kids kind of thing. And to or even just yeah,
so terrible. But
or
yeah,
even just made it a
yes.
lot worse of a breakup for the kids. I feel you guys did a pretty good job, like as far as things go. And I think that that's really tough. And I think that that takes a lot. And to get over that situation, you still did not or are working towards not replacing it with another relationship.
My son is one of the most important people in my life, and I'm always making sure that his needs are taken care of, but I also want to make sure that mine are being taken care of because the better I am for me, the better of a mom I'm going to be for him. And if I'm neglecting myself and my needs, I'm not going to be the best mom I can be for him.
And you're automatically not centering your child. And look, again,
Right.
I'm not a mom. I'm not coming from any kind of experience, but there is some discourse out there about moms who jump from relationship to relationship or things like that, and it can affect the kids. So you just have to be mindful. Again, I can't speak from any kind of experience, but these things are all related, and it just affects, which in my opinion, I think that's compounding on like things like self-esteem and stuff too. If you
Yeah,
like,
of course.
if you're becoming like quote unquote, I don't want to say like a bad mom or something, then you're gonna start to feel worse about yourself, and then you're gonna start to be an even crappier relationship. Like these things compound, and that's why it's so
Yeah.
important to work on them. Like it's like one seed, like does plant all the others. If you're patient in one area of your life, you'll learn patience in the other areas of your life. That's why everything's connected in the world. That's why nature's all
Yeah.
connected, is because it's all a domino effect. Everything is a domino effect.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Danielle, for coming on, being my guest. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow. We're on Spotify and YouTube, Free Soul Awakening. I'm also on Instagram, Free Soul Awakening, and also _Ash on Instagram. So this is our segment where I pull a card. So I'm gonna pull a card from the Soul's Journey lessons
Ooh.
card deck. Yeah. Okay. So we got guilt. So it says, I release any beliefs that no longer assist in my soul's growth. So, yeah, this is looking at a card, this is just guilt for not trusting your intuition. And even when we talk about relationships, maybe staying in a relationship that was bad for you and you knew it wasn't and you couldn't get out. So try to release that and just really start listening to your intuition. And you know what's good for your soul's growth and you know what's not. Always follow your soul. Always.